Yes, 348 Tennessee. Yeah, we got a copy on you. Yeah, we're talking on a Cobra 142. How's it making it?
Oh, it's crystal clear. It sounds real good over here, man. I'd take the knobs off of it so you didn't tempted to monkey with it anymore.
Hey guys, it's Bruce over here in the Pacific Northwest. It's blowing crazy outside today. Good day to be inside of working on CB radios. Hey, so this is going to be a follow-up to that Pace video yesterday. And maybe that left some folks scratching their head a little bit. I got a few comments in there. And, you know, it was this very radio that I kind of figured that out a long time ago, because I did tune up a Royce once upon a time, had these same issues. Yeah, you can see here the manual, it's got some adjustment points for those crystals. And then for the transmitter part over here, it doesn't talk much. It says put it on AM and tweak, peak. Okay. And it tells you over here, yeah, you can set your ALC and your AMC and your bias. Yeah, but these guys, here's the trick. Let's go over to this test points, okay? So, like yesterday's video said, normally you would tune up the very first IF, then do the tune-up through the PLL, and then come over to adjust the second IF. Okay? So the first IF, it says, test point 3. The emitter of Q8. What? They don't have a test point with a little pin you can stick your probe on? No. You got to put your probe on the actual emitter of this little transistor, and it's pretty easy to short them out, actually. But what happens is, your probe will load down the signal there. Now, if you see that, it says, hook it up to a frequency counter through a 10 puff capacitor. That 10 puff is going to isolate a little bit. But what I've found out, there's not much of a signal there. And these probes that I use, you know, at least, you know, this is a switchable 10X and 1X. So when you put that on 10X, yeah, it shouldn't be loading nothing down. But there's not enough signal there to read it on 10X. And, yeah, it's very troublesome to get to this transistor anyway. So the other approach is go do the second IF and adjust it first, then we'll make your way backwards, because if you can measure one or the other, right, you adjust this one for your 0 beats and you'll be spot on, or you could do this one too and adjust this one for 0 beat. You see, and that's a little easier. But turns out with this one, now check this out, test point 4, the emitter of Q9, dang, another transistor. Okay, but at least this one had enough signal that when I put the probe on 10X, it didn't load it down. And you can hear it load down because the RF will fade out a little bit on the speaker, or even just get snuffed out. So, and the reason is, you see these frequencies are pretty tight. And you don't want a probe on there that's going to load it down even a count or two. Because typically a probe will load these signals down maybe 2 counts, from my experience. Okay, so get back on track here. So that allowed me to adjust these two guys, and because I couldn't really grab a signal off these guys, I was able to go back and 0 beat the upper sideband, the lower sideband, and adjust this CT1 for AMTX. Be spot on. Okay? So, again, sometimes there's these old radios that don't have true test points. And the whole reason Be Cool Radios loves the 0 beat technique is because normally on the Uniden radios, it's first IF is this booming. Yeah, you can get plenty of signal out of a Uniden channel on the first IF. They don't load down the probe. You can put this on 10X, it's all good. But then when you go down to this second IF on a Uniden, they're tough to handle. Yeah, the test points aren't clear, and it loads it down. And yeah, I just assumed tune up this first IF spot on, and then zero beat these two for making sure your sideband's spot on. And then you're not loading it down, and you know, to me that's the way to go. Okay, so let's look at that real quick. Let's see if I can get a flashlight and get that in here for you. Yeah. Alright guys, so we went and grabbed a flashlight so we could show this off a little bit. See, there's those two crystals from the second IF. They're 2 adjustment points. But that right there is Q9. You see that down there? So they want you to take your probe and stick it to the emitter of that. But what happens is those probes will load down your circuit. Now this one is pretty robust, so I grabbed the signal off this one. Now the first IF, which is over here, let's get some flashlight on there. See, there's no test point. And it tells you to come over here to Q8. That little guy on the left hand side there, and put your probe on there. I just about snuffed out the signal even on 10x. And then I couldn't get an accurate signal. So that's why I come over here and adjust this guy first. And then I don't really have to measure this because I can zero beat the sidebands and adjust the AMTX to be spot on. So yeah, it's kind of handy that way. So yeah, that's the scoop from Bruce on why I did this. And really, you know, when you do a Uniden board, it's just the opposite. They have really strong signals on the first IF. They don't load down your probe. You can have it on 10x. It's great. But it's when you go to do the second IF on a Uniden, it gets really tough to test point, what is it, test point 6? There's not much of a signal there, and it definitely loads down your probe. So what I do is I adjust the first IF on a Uniden, get it to spec through the crystals, and then for the second IF, I zero beat upper sideband and lower sideband. Yeah. So this radio is backwards. That's what I'm trying to get at you. Hopefully that makes sense. Now, some of you folks said, hey, it's the capacitors. The capacitors are causing this problem. You got to change the caps. I know there seems to be a crowd out there that really loves to change caps. You know, they only have a shelf life of X amount of years. Well, that's true for everything, right? The rest of this radio is working. What are you going to do? Change all these capacitors? Down in the RF section, you see those brown discs back there? They're caps, those round discs, the green ones. No, you don't change those. Only the electrolytic capacitors. Okay, here's the first IF. How many electrolytic capacitors are down there? None. Alright, here's the RF section. And you see I see a blue one back there. They use those to shunt. And that's from the audio circuit there. So yeah, we do have some caps down here in the mic preamp. You see that? Check this out. I did replace some of those caps. And even over here in their push-pull little amplifier for AM modulation, yeah, there's some caps in there. But see, this is the deal. I don't like to replace caps that are good. Sure, they have a 40-year life, whatever, but why do they fail at 6 months or 1 year? Or why does anything fail? It just happens. But I don't like replacing good parts. I'm telling you, I measure those caps out of those D858s. They're still in spec. So, yeah, all that heat, removing the parts, if you don't have the perfect soldering skills, yeah, you replace caps and it just kind of turns into a mess. And really, this is the story. You only change the electrolytic caps. And what do? Well, they're DC filtering. They also do AC coupling, DC filtering, and DC bypass, right? All that kind of stuff. So that's usually down here in the audio amp. It doesn't affect the tuning. And how can you test these capacitors to know they're good? Well, you just put your CB radio in PA mode, hook up the mic, press the key, shout out through that PA speaker, see how things are sounding. If it's loud, if it's clear, it's booming, the caps are good. Okay. All right. Yeah, I just don't like replacing all those caps. For what? It's going to make your radio tune in better? No. No, I'm telling you, Maddie. Don't get me wrong. caps go bad, just like a transistor or anything else, or those stupid little brown disc caps, they can go bad too. But I'm not going to go through there and replace all these disc caps in here because they're X amount of years old. And they said they're only good for X amount of years on the shelf. No, I get it. People like to replace the electrolytics. I'll leave it at that. 73s, guys. Remember, this is all just to help you out.